The shell in his hands holds 122 steel balls. Each one is 3/8 of an inch across, stacked inside a tin cylinder that tears itself apart the instant it leaves the muzzle. Fired into men crossing open ground at 50 yards, it does not punch a hole. It clears the ground. The man loading it is the second man on a 37mm gun on the southern edge of the Henderson Field perimeter, Guadalcanal. The battle for Henderson Field is already underway. His back is to the enemy. He cannot see what is coming, but he can hear it, a regiment moving through the jungle in the dark. Before the sun comes up, the burial parties working in front of this position will lose count somewhere past 2,000. The gun was built to kill tanks. On Guadalcanal, there aren't any. The M337mm was the first dedicated anti-tank gun the United States fielded in numbers. Based on the German Pak-36, the whole piece weighs about 900 pounds, light enough for its crew to drag by hand, low enough to hide in brush. It was meant to stop armour, and that is where its reputation was made, in a different theatre entirely. In Tunisia, at Kasserine Pass, American crews watched 37mm shot bounce off German tanks like marbles. Within a year, it was being replaced by the 57. The verdict that followed the gun into history, too small and too light and already obsolete, was earned against German armour 5,000 miles from here. On Guadalcanal, it is fighting a war nobody designed it for. The Japanese have brought almost no tanks to this island. What they have brought is infantry in the dark, in mass. A 37mm needs a crew of 4 to 6, though on a bad night the work comes down to 2. A gunner aims and fires, a loader feeds the breech. The loader is the second man. He lifts each round from its wooden crate, seats it, and slams the block shut while the gunner calls the next target. His back faces the enemy the whole time. He never sees what the shell does. The ammunition comes in 3 types. Armor-piercing shot, for the tanks that aren't here. High explosive, for bunkers. And the M2 canister round, which is not really a shell at all. It is a tin can full of steel balls that turns the gun into a shotgun with a reach of 250 yards. Each complete round weighs about 3.5 pounds, case and all. That is the weight the loader lifts, over and over, all night. The Marines on this island have already seen what it does. In August, along the Tinaru, gun crews fired so much canister that their barrels glowed in the dark. Whatever the 37's name was in Tunisia, no Marine on Guadalcanal who had watched canister go into a charge thought the gun was a joke. They put it where it would matter. The 7th Marines had 3 anti-air, anti-tank platoons, each with 4 37mm guns and 7 machine guns, and they emplaced them in the front lines in September and left them there. That is what makes them lethal, and it is exactly what makes them vulnerable. There is no real shielding on a 37mm. A rifle bullet can kill the loader while he is bent over the breech, and the ammunition crates sit open at his feet. There are only so many of them. By October, the guns were not the problem on this island. Ammunition was. The only question anyone asked about the 37s was whether there would be enough to keep them firing. The southern sector of the Henderson Field perimeter belongs to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, under Lieutenant Colonel Louis Puller. His men took this ground in late September and spent a month cutting fire lanes, stringing double apron wire, and digging fighting holes with overhead cover. Tonight, the position is thin. A last-minute division reshuffle. Stripped Puller of his reserve and stretched 1 battalion across 2,500 yards of frontage. No backup. If the Japanese come in strength, the only thing stopping them is what is already emplaced in the mud, and 2 of those things are 37mm guns. The left of the line is held by Captain Regan Fuller's Able Company, and it is sadly undermanned. 1 rifle platoon covering its zone. In front of it lies a grassy corridor, a few hundred yards wide. running 2,000 yards south into the trees, with a jeep trail down the middle of it. The Marines call it the bowling alley. Battalion has covered that grass with at least 4 heavy machine guns, pre-registered mortar targets, and 2 cannons. One of the cannons is the loaders. Coming toward it is the Sendai Division, ordered into the field by General Harukichi Hyakutake and personally led by General Masao Maruyama. For 12 days they have been cutting a track 15 miles long through the jungle from the Matanikau. The rain has turned it to mud, and the ravines have pulled their formations apart, so they arrive strung out and exhausted. Their last campaign, on Java, had been comparatively easy. They will attack the way their doctrine favoured, frontally, at night, with the bayonet, into ground built to defeat exactly that. Every yard of the open grass ahead of them is already measured, ranged and registered. They do not know the guns are there. Platoon Sergeant Ralph Briggs and his observation post sit on a knoll 1,500 yards south of the line. Around 9 o'clock his men hear movement, then they see it. A Japanese battalion is coming down the jeep road in the moonlight, silent and strung out, heading straight for the bowling alley. Briggs gets to a telephone, then he breaks his men into small groups and brings them back through the wire, minutes ahead of the enemy. Puller passes the word along the line. Hold fire until the last possible moment. On the gun position, the loader checks his ammunition one more time. The gun isn't dug in deeply. The coral is too hard and the rains have turned the topsoil to soup. But the crew has piled sandbags high enough to stop fragments. He counts what he has, crate by crate, and then he stops counting and listens. He can hear the jungle now. Thousands of feet. Equipment brushing against leaves. Officers whispering orders in a language he doesn't understand. The breech is open and waiting. The first Japanese unit reaches the cleared zone around 10 at night. They come out of the jungle at the west end of the bowling alley and run headlong at the double apron wire. The Marines let them come. When the leading wave is inside the wire and inside the killing zone, the whole line opens at once. Mortars drop into their pre-registered boxes. Machine guns stitch the grass, and the 37s fire the first rounds of the night. The loader doesn't see any of it. He is bent to the breech, back to the enemy, working by touch. The gunner calls for canister. He lifts the round out of the crate, feels the weight of 122 steel balls settle in his hands, and drives it home. The block snaps shut. The gunner fires. The gun bucks backward against its sandbags. The tin case ruptures at the muzzle, and the balls spread into a cone wider than a man is tall. At this range, against men in the open, the effect isn't penetration, it's deletion. A Marine who watched it happen would say only that it really blows the living hell out of everything around. There is no sound for it that the loader can pick out of the rest. He knows the round has done its work only because the gunner is already calling for the next one. The barrel heats until the paint blisters. Hot brass ejects onto the coral and burns his hands when he kneels. He can't hear his own crew over the machine guns and the mortars and the screaming, so he stops trying to hear and works by feel. Crate, breech, block, fire, eject, crate, 3.5 pounds at a time. The first attack dissolves inside an hour. Bodies pile up in the wire and the grass turns slick. There is a rhythm to the work, and the rhythm is most of what is holding him together. Open the crate, lift, seat it, slam the block, stand clear of the recoil. The gun jumps and settles, and the empty case comes out smoking and rings off the coral behind him. Somewhere in that first hour, he stops hearing the noise as noise. It turns into weather, something happening to the air rather than to him. What he does keep hearing is his own hand on the wood, because every time his fingers find the bottom of a crate instead of another round, the night gets a little shorter. Half an hour past midnight, a battalion of the 29th Infantry reaches the cleared zone. They crawl across the open ground and cut the wire in the dark, and they very nearly make it until one man raises himself too early and gives the position away. The line blazes. The 37 fires canister straight into the gap. That assault breaks in under 30 minutes. They aren't the last wave. Between the waves there is no rest, only a different kind of work. The crew swings the trail across to a new arc. Someone drags the empty crates clear so that nobody breaks an ankle on them in the dark. The loader wipes his palms down his trousers, because sweat and hot brass together make a round slip, and a round dropped in the dark is a round nobody finds until morning. Out in the grass, men who are still alive are calling out. The Marines on the line have been told not to answer them and not to go out to them. In total darkness he keeps count, because the count is the only number he has. He knows how many crates came up to the gun before dark. He knows how many are still standing. The second number is the one that matters, and it has been getting smaller since 10 o'clock. He doesn't let himself think past it. He thinks about the next round and the next breath between rounds. The jungle is still full of footsteps. At about 1:15, in the Charlie Company zone, Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, Medal of Honor recipient, has 2 sections of water-cooled Browning M 1917 heavy machine guns, firing so continuously that the water in their cooling jackets boils away. Marines who were there described crews urinating into the jackets to keep the guns from seizing. Basilone moves up and down the line under fire, carrying fresh belts of ammunition to the guns. 60 yards away, the loader cannot hear Basilone's guns over his own. By 3:30 in the morning, 6 major assaults have come against Puller's line, and the battalion still has no reserve. What saves it is that the army arrives. Troops of the 164th Infantry come up the communications trail behind the perimeter in the dark. A Catholic chaplain who has walked that trail so many times that he knows it by feel leads them in. Marines come back from the front and take the army platoons forward 100 yards at a time into empty holes along the line. The firing picks up tremendously. The 37 crews are not relieved. The sun rises on a field of dead. The loader is alive. The last crate is empty and his hands won't stop shaking. Burial parties from the 164th begin counting. They count 1,075 bodies in and around the American lines and estimate perhaps 1,500 more scattered through the jungle beyond. The 29th Infantry's 3rd Battalion has been practically annihilated. Puller's battalion lost 24 dead, 28 wounded, and 2 missing. 24 Marines, more than 2,000 of theirs. The wire slowed them down and broke up their rushes. The overhead cover kept Marines alive under mortar fire, and the direct fire cannon, firing canister into grass that had already been measured and ranged, turned the bowling alley into ground that infantry could not cross on foot. None of it was improvised. The M2 canister round was not a desperate field expedient invented on a bad night. It was catalogued service ammunition, issued for exactly one contingency, a massed infantry assault in the open. The contingency simply happened to be the entire Japanese operational plan. He never aims a shot. He never chooses the ammunition. He never sees a single man fall in front of the gun. He holds the case in his hands, over and over, and feeds it into the breech while a regiment tries to walk through it. The gun was built to punch holes in armour. Instead, it punched a hole in an army. The Sendai Division never recovered. Maruyama's force, which had marched 15 miles through jungle to destroy Operation Watchtower's lifeline, ceased to exist as a fighting formation before sunrise. And the second man on the gun walked away with hands that would not forget the weight of 122 steel balls. Subscribe if this one was worth your time.